How do video games affect a student's school life? We talked with people in the video game profession. We asked them about the positive and negative effects that video games have on students, and if they played video games, what their opinions were. Studies show that at least 67% of U.S. households have individuals that play video games.
You know, there's a lot of attention right now around games being very positive for students, ranging from just if you play games and you actually start developing problem-solving skills.
Some students blow off a whole week of school just to play the newest Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, or anything like that. So it can, depending on the person, it can affect it greatly. Depending on other people, it can not affect them at all.
So I make educational video games, so I think if they're playing those, then it's obviously a good thing. And I think even entertainment video games can teach kids important skills, so things like problem solving or working in teams. I guess the downside, of course, is if they spend too much time playing them, but I think overall it's a net positive.
Video games affect a student's school life both positively and negatively. There's aspects that they can take, like critical thinking, like reflexes, timing, colors, shapes, word association. In a lot of games you're given a directive where you'll have like a certain amount of time and you just have to know.
Video games affect student school life in different ways. On a personal level, as how they interact with other students. As far as classwork, it can be a distraction because they are too focused on what they're going to do after school with the video games rather than what they need to be doing, what's important in class. And then there's also the video games play such a role in some students' lives that as soon as a new video game comes out, they're definitely not coming to school the next day, maybe the next week, because they're too worried about playing a video game.
There are probably some games that could be almost somewhat educational, which is a good thing. But if a student loses control of his or her sense of time and so forth, and spends so much time involved with video games that it takes that student away from doing homework or such things, then it could be damaging.
Call of Duty really helped him learn history things because of the settings where Call of Duty takes place and some of the things that happens during the game and stuff like that. So I do think that they could serve educational purposes, but I think the violent aspect almost could cancel some of that stuff out.
I think they're a really engaging media experience. They're definitely hot right now.
American Revolution. So I think that you can take those events and what happens during those events and kind of incorporate them in video games. Maybe they can do more of like reality of what actually happened during that, but it might not be fun for kids to play. So they're thinking about what can actually draw kids in, and that's mainly violence.
There's a rating system for video games, and I think that's probably a pretty good place to start. Most of the games that people complain about probably would have a mature rating, and those are 17 and up. So I think 13 and up and 17 and up are probably, I don't know, I think a good place to start. And most stores are actually pretty good about checking IDs on those things. So like if a little kid goes in and tries to buy Grand Theft Auto, they're probably going to get turned around. So the mature games usually have some pretty crazy stuff in them, but for the teen content games, it's not any worse than anything that people are seeing on television.
The rating system, sort of like with the movies, they rate the games. And so if parents sort of pay attention to those ratings, that can help them determine when they think that they're in the right age range just in general.
I think everybody should play video games. I don't think everybody should play the same game. I think people should play games that are good for their personalities and what they're looking for in games.
Video games can be used to learn in school in a plethora of different ways. When I was growing up, we had typing games. I liked the ones more about historical events because there was always like a chain of things that you had to do. Oregon Trail, love that game. I love that game. So you have preparation, and depending on like your family size, you need to have like food and clothing or bullets to hunt and stuff like that. So you have to think ahead. You're not just thinking in the now. You have to think, 3 days from now in the game, what's going to happen.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. It teaches real good hand-eye coordination. It can teach you life skills. Some stuff that can't be taught in the classroom. Ways to think outside the box, which teachers can't teach.
It's one of the industries in the United States that's really, really growing, and it continues to grow. So I think we're going to see, more and more people playing video games, especially now with, as popular as mobile.
And then my other bit of advice for parents and video games is to play the games along with your kids.
You might be able to debate that movies are larger than games, but everybody kind of agrees that games are the fastest growing medium in terms of sort of mainstream popular culture. Parents should be engaged with their kids, period. So like if you're really interested in games, it'd be great if your parents sort of understood what you played and, possibly even play it with you.
Video games are blamed for violent crimes, but they can help with education. Video games are the fastest growing media and have even surpassed movies. There are rating systems for video games that restrict children under the required age from buying those games, but parents sometimes ignore the rating system. Parents should know when their children are playing games that are violent or inappropriate. Parents should play video games with their children. We would like our educators to use video games because they are what we grew up with. Don't scapegoat games because of the violence in some games. Take time to understand the educational benefits of games and that young people want acceptance of gaming from adults and the media.
What?